Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to talk about, I don't know, like 8 books. I got a stack here. I got 2.5 stacks technically. But these are all books that I am for sure going to read this year. Now, the first thing I gotta do is give a little bit of a disclaimer because about 1.5 stacks of these are not a specific book. And so I'm not technically counting them, but they are an honorable mention. There's really 2 sets of these. But this year specifically, I need to start trying to make it through some of my R.L. Stine, Fear Street, and like Fear Street Saga, Fear Street 99, all the goodies. I gotta get through some of this. I keep piling them up, and I keep looking up there because I have Christopher Pike over there too. I keep finding them at Second and Charles, and I can't say no, and I need to read them. I need to read them. I have so many, and I just got a new Kindle, and I want to continue my read of the Fear Street books kind of in order, sequentially. I'm on book 5, so I'm not very far into that, but I need to continue that trend. The second little addendum I have is I really need to get on top of my Nightworms books, like this Cursed House. Honestly, I've had Nightworms for a full year, and I think I've read 8 of the books. I just keep putting them off, and I need to be better about reading them as they come in. Especially lately, they haven't been particularly long, not usually particularly long. I could read 500 pages for 2 books in a weekend if I needed to. Like, I could absolutely do this. I'm committing now to read more of my Nightworms books throughout the year. No particular order. We'll talk about them as I get through them. All of that said, now I want to talk about specific books that I'm going to read 100% for sure this year, 2025. So the first one is sci-fi. It is a very old series, but one I've wanted to read for a very long time, and that is on Basilisk Station. This is the first book in the David Weber Honorverse, the Honor Harrington series. This is a really big space opera. This series in particular, because there's different side series in this world, but this one is focused on Honor Harrington. And in this book, basically she gets sent to a distant station to run after kind of embarrassing a superior in a training exercise. It is, I don't really want to say a hard science. It kind of is. It gets pretty technical on the engineering side. It would definitely be boring to some sci-fi people, but this is the type of stuff I really love, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy. I love when books are detailed enough in the world building and the mechanics that it's very easy to get lost in. I tend to really like those types of video games too, so I'm really excited. It's been on my want to read list forever, and I have like the first 7 books of this main series, so I'm very excited to dive into that. Flipping genres, we're gonna do a lot because I did not organize these. We're gonna be hopping around a lot here. I really want to read more classic literature, not just Gothic, but like classic lit in general. But this year for sure I want to read Dracula by Bram Stoker. I've never read it. I don't know if I'd read this version or my leather version that I have on this other shelf here. I just really like this version as a display piece. The writing style doesn't bother me. Epistolary format, I think that's the name of it. That's never bothered me. I tend to really like that in books anyway. I find it very immersive. I've just never read it. It's probably my favorite, well, it's a close tie for my favorite Universal monster movie between that and Creature, between Dracula and the Creature. I really love Dracula though, and I really want to read this for sure this year. Probably gonna do a Halloween video around it. The second one is, or the third book, I guess, is the first book I will have ever read from this author. Mostly choosing this one because it's kind of the one that really blew them up, and that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I know nothing about Riley Sager other than after this book came out, they were everywhere. I've heard good things about this book, but I haven't read any of their other stuff yet, so I'm hoping it's really good. This will be kind of my introduction. The next one is the only children's fantasy book on this list, and that is Voyage of the Frostheart by Jamie Littler. I don't read a lot of children's fantasy, but I do read some. And I know Gavin over at Gavin Reads It All really likes this series, and it looks interesting enough that I would be willing to give it a try when I'm in the mood for something whimsical and charming. So this year I'm for sure gonna read the first book. If I'm being honest, I'll probably end up reading all three. They are about 300 to 400 pages, but I mean, it's children's fantasy. The font's pretty big. There's artwork mixed in. You know, children's fantasy is one of those things that a lot of people write off, but if you can kind of get around some of the tropiness of it, it's like YA fantasy. If you can get around some of that stuff, you can find a really charming, heartwarming story more often than you would think. So I'm more than willing to give it a try, and I really hope that I like this one when I read it. Alright, so we have 4 books left here. This is Back to My Roots of Horror, and this is The Living Dead, Daniel Kraus and George A. Romero. I know Daniel Kraus did Whalefall, but I haven't read that. I have had this book for probably 2 years now. I need to read this. I'm probably not going to wait till Halloween to read this. I love Night of the Living Dead. It is probably my favorite movie of all time. Black and white. I mean, watching that on Friday Night Freak Show, which is a local access channel back in West Virginia, just that made me a horror fan instantly. And this book kind of jumps around POVs because it's kind of about the first day of infection. So kind of all these different people's perspectives all over the country as the dead are coming back to life. When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. For sure, I'm reading this book this year. Honestly, hell, I might start it tomorrow, tonight. Well, no, I need to finish Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I didn't plan on reading, but it was included in the Kindle membership when I got my new Kindle. The next one is another book that is out of my wheelhouse, but I just read a YA romance, so I'm kind of in the mood to experiment a little bit, and that is Tomorrow, 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 which kind of follows the lives of 2 characters who start as friends. I think they date for a little while. They definitely create a game and start a game company, and it's about their kind of relationship and their growth throughout their life. And I've heard nothing but good things about it, and that's about all I know of it. It's a very beautiful edition. Very beautiful cover. And so I kind of want to go in a little bit blind on it and just enjoy it as much as I can. I don't really have a hard date. I don't plan what books I'm going to read month to month or anything. I kind of have an idea of the stuff that I really want to read like throughout the year, but I'll kind of pick these up whenever. So Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. The last 2 are kind of back more into my wheelhouse. And that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. So I finally have read a Fonda Lee book. It's up here. It'll be in a future video, but I read Breath of the Dragon, which is written by Fonda Lee in conjunction with Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. That is YA fantasy, but it was spectacular. And so Jade City, it was her adult fantasy series. From what I hear, and I think it was from Mike over at Mike's Book Review, it's kind of like Chinese fantasy meets The Godfather. That just alone sounds really cool. I know it focuses kind of on a specific family of 4 siblings Yeah, the Call family. In this world where Greenbone warriors have kind of used jade to enhance their abilities. But I don't know much else about it. I do know, like, the blade itself, it blew up on BookTube. I just never got around to reading it, and I love Joe Abercrombie. I love the blade itself in the First Law trilogy, so I'm really expecting to really enjoy this whole Greenbone saga. So that's why this year specifically, I want to at least read Jade City, get it out of the way. I may end up doing like I did with First Law. I'll read the first one, and there might be a gap, and then I'll read 2 and 3, or maybe I'll end up reading all 3. I don't know, but I'm putting my foot down. I'm reading Jade City this year. So the last one is technically a reread, but I read this, God, 18 years ago, 6th or 7th grade, and I feel like now, as a working class adult, it's gonna hit very differently. And that is Dune by Frank Herbert. I don't really know how to describe Dune other than big old sci-fi, but it's got a lot of fantasy elements. It is technically sci-fi, but it also has a lot of philosophical elements. There's a lot of, I mean, heck, it's even got, what is it? How to describe Name of the Wind? Like, economical elements and sides to it. It's a lot about the world itself, Arrakis, the different families and the different forms of government and the different classes of people. It's kind of a dull book in a lot of ways, for sure, especially by modern standards, but I really enjoyed it back then, and so I really want to give it a reread and then kind of see how I feel about the book and then potentially the series if I really like it 18 years later now as a fully grown adult. So for sure I'm going to be reading Dune this year. Don't know exactly when, but guys, those are the books that I'm for sure reading this year, with the inclusion of the whole Fear Street series and all of my Nightworm stuff. All of these will be talked about in videos, so you guys can keep me honest. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.